Get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started on this morning's word up, motivation and inspirational word for this morning. And I want to go to the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 13. Now, this is a passage or a story here in the book of Ecclesiastes that I really don't hear a lot of people talking about or reading about, but it has a good moral to this story, and it also shows us the importance of being able to receive wisdom from people that we may not think have wisdom, or people that we think because of how they look or because of their status or because they might be poor, or because they might be younger than us, or maybe because they haven't been in the truth longer than we have, that we're still able to receive wisdom and wise words from each other as brothers and sisters, as long as those words are wise. You understand what I'm saying? So don't never underestimate a person. Me personally, I always like to hear the conversation of other brothers and sisters, because even though I've been in this truth for a long time, and I don't say that to be boastful, but I've been in this truth for a long time. I've probably been in this truth, even though I'm in my mid-30s and stuff, a lot of brothers that are older than me, I've probably been in this truth longer than they have. I was practically, raised, from an early age, coming up, learning things, understanding things, not on my own accord, but growing. My father sharing certain things with me, then y'all passed me on to someone else, and from my pastor, if I may use that term, or teacher, that at the time, y'all used him to set certain foundations in me that helped carry me along my journey in serving y'all. And y'all put people in your life like that, and we cannot forget these people. We cannot discredit them just because they may not have a title slapped in front of their name, or just because they may not have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, or a big fan base page on Facebook. You understand what I'm saying? And we have to understand, because I see that a lot with our people. We are so intrigued by numbers. We go to someone's profile, or we go to someone's Facebook or YouTube, and we see they got 1K or 2K subscribers, and all of a sudden we just so interested in wanting to hear what they have to say, But when someone may just have a simple Facebook page, they're not really claiming to be a teacher, or they're not claiming to be a minister or something like that, but yet they post things that are more edifying on their page, and then we'll disregard that. We'll disregard that and be like, oh well, that person's not really anybody in the Israelite community, so we don't really regard what they say, but we'd rather go and run to somebody that has 100K subscribers and think that everything that they say is gold. We cannot have the same mindset. We cannot carry on the same mindset that Christianity has. You know what I'm saying? We have to look for edification. A lot of times edification and a lot of times wisdom is found in places where you may not even think that wisdom is. You understand what I'm saying? And see, that's the tricky thing about wisdom. Wisdom is, we can find wisdom in the simple things. I always tell people that the profoundness or the depth of understanding the thing a lot of time lies in the simplicity of the details. And a lot of times, because we don't want to start with the simple things, we want to go ahead and go from here to here, but there's levels of maturity that God has to bring us to. And when you overstep that route or those bounds, sometimes you will find that your growth becomes immature. You begin to grow immaturely. You understand what I'm saying? So it's just like plants. You plant a plant, there are stages in which that plant's developed. Just like a child, a baby. You know, from an infant, there are stages in which that child develops until it gets to a point of maturity whereby it's able to make good and righteous decisions based on its upbringing. But when that child is not put in a position whereby it's able to grow maturely, or a plant, you know, when it grows too fast, you know, and not at the right pace, then it will not produce good fruit. You know, it might produce fruit, but the fruit may not be A1 or 100%, okay? So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into Ecclesiastes chapter 9. I want to begin at verse 13, okay? And this is the preacher, the Kaheti in the Hebrew, writing words of wisdom. And a lot of people believe that the writer here in Ecclesiastes is Solomon, okay? He goes on to say, this wisdom have I seen under the heaven, and it seemed great unto me. There was a little city, and few men within it. And there came a great king against it, and besieged it, and built great bulwarks against it. Now there was found in this city, a poor, wise man. So here we have a scenario where there was a little city where there was only few men in the city. But yet a great king came against the city. He built bulwarks against the city. He besieged the city, and he sought to capture the city. All right. So in verse 15, it says, now there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no man remembered him. And that seems a little ironic that here there's a scenario that the Kaheti, he's seeing this. He's able to get wisdom and understanding from the scenario. But when you look at the scenario, why would people forget a person that basically by their wisdom was able to bring deliverance against a great king that came to besiege the city? He built bulwarks against the city. He basically came to take over the city. You understand what I'm saying? And in the city, there was few men. They didn't have the power or the capability to fight against this great king head on. But in the city, there was a poor, wise man who by his wisdom was able to deliver the city out of the hand of this great king. But yet, through all of this is a magnificent feat that this poor wise man did, yet he was not even remembered. No one remembered him. No one gave him recognition. No one gave him honor, because honor was due unto him, because by his wisdom, he was able to save a multitude of people. In a circumstance where the odds of the city were set against him, but by the poor man's wisdom, he was able to deliver the city, but yet no one remembered him. No one zachar him. And a lot of times, you know, this is the same scenario among Israel today, my brothers and sisters. You know, we think that just because someone is Raah Pathwal or Raah Pathwal, or we perceive that someone puts out a good documentary and we just think everything that they say is gold. But yet we disregard the poor man or the lowly person who may not have a title, who may not have a ministry, who may not have a Facebook page or a YouTube or anything of that nature, but yet they have more wisdom than some of these teachers out here that's out here teaching that has a great following. We cannot despise people like that. We cannot disregard someone based on their status and think, or because this person is poor, or because this person may be younger than me, that they can't tell me nothing. They can't say nothing to me. And this poor man, he delivered the city. But yet, he was not remembered for it. Look what he goes on to say. Verse 16. Then said I, wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. The poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not even heard. Because people judge based on persons. They hold men's persons in admiration. And we cannot do that. We cannot carry on that same attitude that we see in Christian. They do that in Christianity all the time. Because the pastor is pastor so-and-so, or because the man calls himself an apostle or a prophet and all this stuff, then people just, they don't research what they say. They just take what they say for face value as though they are Messiah or the Most High themselves. We cannot be like that, brothers and sisters. Always regard and listen carefully to what someone is saying. Therefore, you'll be able to judge whether or not there are words of wisdom or words that are unwise. How can you make a proper discernment based on what someone is saying if you're not able to listen or hear what they are saying? A lot of times we base our judgment on people based on how they look, based on how much money they have, based on their social status, okay? But never taking into consideration that maybe this person might have something that you can gain understanding and knowledge from. And personally, that's how, you know, when I talk with people, you know, when people come to me, I may go to different functions, they'll come up to me and start talking and share with me. I listen to what they have to say. I don't try to show them what I know, because they might say something that I need. You understand? Just because you are a teacher or a pastor or a prophet don't mean that you cannot receive wisdom or get understanding by listening to someone else whose social status may not be as renowned as you, or their name might not be as renowned as you in the Israelite community. Do not despise people as such. Because sometimes wisdom can be found in things that you may not be aware of, or things in which you may not even have any idea that wisdom is in this particular person. One thing that we have to understand, brothers and sisters, that in the body of Israel, we are a body. We all have gifts. We all have talents. Everybody's not a teacher. Everybody's not a moraine. Everybody's not a singer. Everybody's not an organizer. Everybody's not a historian. But if we are able to receive from each other the things that are beneficial for the building or for the spiritual awakening of a people, we will be more advanced. We will be more strong as a people if we learn how to appreciate each other's gifts and talents that everyone brings to the table. You know, wisdom is not limited to one aspect of life. You know, everybody has a certain gift or a certain talent in which they operate in that talent with wisdom. You understand what I'm saying? Now, that doesn't mean that everybody is wise, or that doesn't mean that everybody has wisdom on all levels. You understand what I'm saying? See, I might have wisdom in building a house or in carpentry work, and someone else might have wisdom in some other aspect. You understand? Just because that person may not possess the wisdom of how to build a house doesn't mean that the thing that he is skilled in or the gift or talent that he has wisdom in cannot benefit me. That doesn't mean that. So we have to stop despising each other based on social status. Now, if you're looking at this person's life and you see they're not walking according to Torah, then you have to take their lifestyle into consideration. But if there is a person in whom you know striving to serve Yah, and they may not have a renowned social status or something like that amongst Israel, don't despise what they say just because they may not have a great following, or they may not have a big ministry, or they may not be someone that's, you know, outspoken and known, the name known among the house of Israel, because that person can be the very one that can give you wisdom in a time whereby you might need deliverance. Look what he says here. Verse 16 again. It says, "Then said I, wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard." Now, verse 17, I want you to understand verse 17 here. It says, "The words of the wise men are heard in quiet, more than the cry of him that ruleth among fools." What does this mean? A lot of times, we can talk to somebody until our face is blue. We can try to share wisdom with somebody until, our mouth goes dry, or we get weary or tired, Because when a person ruleth among fools, he trying to instruct fools. Fools hear one thing going one side of the ear and not the other. They're not retaining nothing that you're saying. So therefore, it makes you frustrated and get you aggravated. You begin to raise your voice, thinking that the louder that you raise your voice to this fool, that he might hear your wisdom or hear the words that you have to say. But I want you to take this into consideration, that a lot of times that wisdom can be heard more when you are quiet, when you shut your mouth and let someone see your wisdom displayed in your life more than you speaking it or talking it. Because the scripture says that a man's wisdom will cause his face to shine. What does that mean? That when a man is wise, he doesn't have to verbally always speak or always verbally speak his wisdom. That people will see from his countenance, from his actions, from his deeds, that he is a wise man based on how he conducts himself. The scripture says that wisdom is the principal thing. But in all thy, he said, get wisdom, but in all thy getting, he said, get what? Understanding. Because without understanding, wisdom would not profit a person. You understand what I'm saying? But when you find a wise person who has understanding, then that understanding allows that person to apply the wisdom to their life. Therefore, it's just not a verbalization of that person's wisdom, but that person's wisdom is an action in which they display and walk out in their life. So my ox and a coach, don't despise a poor man's wisdom. Just because of someone may be lowly, meek, quiet, never think that person might not have words of wisdom in a time whereby you might be needing a word of deliverance or a word of encouragement or a word of strength. A lot of times when we are faced with certain circumstances and we need advice, we so quick to run to, for example, run to Raah Pathwal, run to Moray so-and-so, run to this person, run to that person, but we overlook maybe there might be a lowly sister, that doesn't say much. She don't really put herself out there, and she might have the words of wisdom that you need. Or there might be a brother who may not verbalize everything that he knows or everything that he says, or he may not have a title slapped in front of his name, or you may not go to Facebook and see that he got all these messages and teachings and things of that nature, but yet that brother might have some words of wisdom that can bring some deliverance in your life. So never despise a poor man's wisdom. Never underestimate your ox and a colt. Let us work together in unity. Let us learn how to receive from each other. Because we are members of each other. We are members of each other. So just because I might be a pinky toe in the body of Messiah doesn't mean that I despise a brother that might be the kneecap or something like that. No. We got to function as a body, being able to receive wisdom, be able to receive wise words if that person is walking in wisdom and walking in truth. I want to share this story with you all, and then I got a couple more verses I want to read. I remember when I was a youth, about 8 or 9 years old, my mother used to send me and my younger brother younger than me, next to me, to go retrieve the mail from the mailbox. And we would have to walk through our cousin's yard. His name, we call him Cousin Cecil. He was a heroin addict, right? And everybody knew it. So I remember we were walking through his yard, and when he got the mail, we was on our way back home. We cut through his yard again, and the next thing you know, he was standing out. He just came out of nowhere. I don't know if he came out the back door. He was standing in the yard for some reason, and he was high off of heroin. Now, at that time, I didn't really understand what he was going through until my mother explained it to me. But he grabbed me, and he looked at me, and he was sweating profusely. His eyes was just bloodshot red. He was saying, "Don't be like me. Don't do what I'm doing. Listen to your parents. You are some good boys. Don't be out here running in these streets." You know, even though he was a heroin addict and he was tripping off that heroin himself, those words that he spoke to me stuck with me. You know what I'm saying? Because even though he was captive and addicted to heroin, the words that he spoke to me were wise words. And I didn't despise what he said, because what he said was true. So never despise words of wisdom, my brothers and sisters, because you never know where words of wisdom can come from. You never know who y'all can use to speak words of wisdom to you. And just because that person may be poor in a sense, or may be a lowly person, don't despise what they say. Listen to what they're saying now. Take into consideration what that person's saying, because that person might be speaking something whereby you might find deliverance in those words of wisdom. All right. I want to go to the book of James, book of James, chapter 2, and I'm going to read this right quick, and we're going to go ahead and end this session for this morning. I pray that this teaching was a great inspiration to your heart. This word up in the morning just reminded us to not have respect to person, to give honor where honor is due, and people that y'all put in our lives that may not be a teacher or a pastor or not claiming to be anybody, but an ark in the coat. Don't despise those people. Don't forget those people. Remember those people. Remember these people that's sticking with you in this truth. You understand what I'm saying? Because we need each other. And that's one thing that the Most High, the Most High has not made us independent people. There's no such thing as an independent man, and there's no such thing as an independent woman. In this life, you're going to depend on something. You're going to have to depend on something. Just like me. If I don't eat food, okay, then eventually I'm going to die. I'm going to starve to death. So I depend on food in order to sustain my physical being. Because my physical man needs food in order to survive. You understand what I'm saying? But ultimately, we have to depend on Yah, because He is our ultimate source. But what I'm saying is that Yah has not made us independent creatures. We depend on each other. You understand what I'm saying? Now look at this in James chapter 2, verse 1. James chapter 2, verse 1. He says, "My brethren, have not emunah or faith of the Master Yeshua, the Master of esteem, with respect to persons." He said, "For if there come into your assembly a man with a gold ring and good apparel, and there come in also a poor man in vile raiment, and you have respect to him that weareth the good clothing, and say unto him, Sit you here in the good place, and say to the poor, Stand you there, or sit here under my footstool, are you not then partial in yourself, and become judges of evil thoughts? Have you not become judges of evil thoughts? Just because a person might have a costly array on, and then someone might walk in with vile clothes, and you perceive, oh, because this person is dressed well, he looks good, he looks nice, and this person is dressed like a tramp. The person that's dressed well, he got to be wise. He got to know everything. But the person in vile raiment, you despise him because you think he don't know nothing. He said, have you not become judges of evil thoughts? You understand what I'm saying? Now look at this right here. Let's continue on to verse 5. He said, hearken, my beloved brethren, have not Yah chosen the poor of this world rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom, which he had promised to them that love him? Has not Yah chosen the weak things of this world to confound the mighty, and those who call themselves wise? Has he not chosen the poor? They might be poor in their status or in their person, but yet that person might be more rich in faith than you are. Now look at this. He said, but you have despised the poor. Do not the rich men oppress you and draw you before the judgment seat? Do not they blaspheme that worthy name by which you are called? If you fulfill the royal law according to the scriptures, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, you do well. But if you have respect of persons, you commit sin and are convinced of the law as a transgressor. Okay, so respect a person is based on, okay, I'm going to judge this person differently because their social status or their status in life may be lowly than this person. That's a wrong judgment. Y'all don't judge like that. Okay, Yah does not judge. Yah judge a person according to what they do and their actions. He doesn't judge them according to their office or their vocation or their status in life. Okay, he doesn't judge them because this person is poor and they rich. He judges the rich and the poor based on their action and their deeds. That's how Yah makes his judgments. And we should make our judgments the same way. And we should not despise a person because of their social status, their financial status, whatever status that we think. Okay, just because that person may not be as renowned as a person doesn't make them any more less than that person. Just because a person may not call themselves a teacher or a preacher or a pastor, or they may not have a big ministry or something like that, doesn't make that person any more less than the person that does. Actually, it might make them more than that person because most of the time that lowly person has more faith and love towards the Most High than that person that calls themselves a pastor or a moray or a teacher and things of that nature and have all these people following them. Do not despise a poor man's wisdom. Never underestimate a person based on their status. I pray that this word up in the morning was a great inspiration to your heart. Thank you, my brothers and sisters, for joining us this morning. And I'm going to try to come back on today is, okay, I'm going to try to probably come back on Thursday with another word up in the morning. Words of motivation and inspiration for my ox and the coats out there. Until next time, we say shalom to you, Kol Yisrael, the 12 tribes scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. May Yah enrich you on this day. May he establish your thoughts. May he prosper you in your way and keep you safe and bring you to your destination and bring you back to your destination safely. Shalom.